What? 3 in a row? The Pacers keep rolling. They beat the Celtics. Pascal Siakam clutch again with the floater near the end. The Pacers bench defense quite good. Jay Huff was scoring like crazy. What's going on? The Pacers keep winning. We'll break it down today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, the Pacers win again. Can you believe it? 3 in a row. Don't ask how, but they are 5-18 or 5-13 in their last 18 games. Look at that. They beat the Celtics, the new best team they've beaten this season, albeit without Jaylen Brown. They hold them under 100 points. Pascal Siakam wiggles free for a second game winner this season, kind of third if you count the Charlotte game, but there were points after that. He was great. The Pacers are playing good basketball again. Their offense has some good moments. Their defense has some good moments. And quietly, here they come. Their longest win streak of the season as they get it done versus Boston. And this was a very interesting game because there were moments where I actually thought the Pacers were going to lose in spite of their hot shooting. They shot 43% from three, which isn't crazy high or anything, but they started 1 for 6 and then went 15 for 31, basically half their threes the rest of the way, including at one point making 7 in a row. And when they made the 7th in a row, I was typing, the Pacers have made 7 threes in a row. And in that moment, the Celtics scored. And so at the time that happened in my notes, the Pacers had made 7 straight threes and were winning by 1. And so in my head, I thought, okay, this is going to be a challenge for the Pacers. These threes are not going to go in forever. Then things might change for them. But instead, what happened is, in the second half, after really struggling with matchup hunting from Peyton Pritchard and Derek White all night, to their credit, they kept bringing the bigs into the screens and scoring. The Pacers kind of overloaded their side in the second half, made things a little harder. The crunch time play was quite good. The third quarter defense was awesome. The Celtics scored 2 points in the first 6 minutes of that quarter. Jay Huff made some shots, and the Pacers win a game. So the setup to get to the end, where the Pacers overcome this, like barely being able to hold a lead despite not missing, is what I just mentioned. The first thing that stood out before we get to Siakam's brilliance is their third quarter defense. Boston finishes that quarter with 21 points, and they scored 40 in the second half of the game. And the first 6 minutes of the third, with the starters on the floor, the Pacers gave up 2 points that entire time. They were awesome. Neemias Queta dunked with 7:32 to go in the quarter. That was the first points for the Celtics in the second half. Their next basket came with 5:33 to go from a Hugo Gonzalez driving layup. The Pacers were up 8 at that point. Siakam scores, and the next trip to go up 10. And the Celtics were winning at halftime by 2. And so that 6-minute stretch turned the game around so much because the rest of the way, the Celtics were better. They cut the lead down from 10 to 0. It was tied late. Really, the Pacers' peak lead came just after the middle of that third quarter. They went up 13, right? And that was all because their defense was awesome for that 6-minute stretch of the game. And then they did just enough to hold their lead the rest of the way. They never trailed after that, but that was the first stretch that turned the game around because the Celtics were winning for a majority of the first half. So credit the starting 5 for that. They adjusted how they were defending Pritchard and White, and those two were still getting looks up, but they were much harder. They weren't going in quite as much, and none of the guys who killed them in the first half did anything. Sam Hauser made 2 threes early. He didn't do much besides that 1K to dunk. He couldn't get free in the same ways that he was. And the other way the Pacers won this game, in spite of not being able to extend their lead, making 7 threes in a row, was crunch time. I should have started with this, but that's not the real setup for how the Pacers won. This is the second game in a week where the Pacers, who were previously just terrible in crunch time this season, were good when it mattered. Obviously, the Charlotte game, they found ways in the final 2 minutes thanks to their veterans. The Pacers now have 4 clutch wins this season. 2 of them have come in the last 5 days, right? They're figuring at least something out. Now, they were bound to do better. They have been unlucky in crunch time, and a lot of people will say, how can you be unlucky in crunch time? Their net rating in clutch situations is 24th. That's not good. Their net rating in crunch time is better than the Rockets, who are 7-12 in clutch games, the Celtics, who they just beat, who are 8-11 in clutch games. The Pacers have a better crunch time net rating than the Nuggets, who are 9-9 in clutch games. The Pacers' luck, air quotes, has been that in their close games, granted they haven't played well, Giannis at the buzzer, Brunson at the buzzer, Ingram at the buzzer, I'm missing some, like they've been beaten at the horn or close to the horn multiple times this season, and that is why they've been, air quotes, unlucky. They've had more buzzer beaters or late shots against them than for them. In this case, it was for them. And we'll get to the last shot, but Siakam was brilliant on the final basket. The Pacers were up 4 with 3 minutes and 41 seconds to go. Neemias Queta hits a free throw. Then the Pacers go up 5, and then I thought this one might wiggle away. Peyton Pritchard hit a 3. The Celtics cut it to 2, and the Pacers' offense sometimes late in these games. Look, I understand this, and I want to talk about this because people always mention this in games like this. Their offense is different in the last 5 minutes, and they actually always talk about how when they feel like they play their best in crunch time, they're moving the ball and passing a lot, and that's true. The way you play and your identity does generate good shots. The reason that I explain this a lot, the reason teams like to be just a little simpler, especially when they're winning in a close game, is a turnover is a bigger disaster when you have a sixth defender in the clock, right? You have an advantage on your side if you're winning in the final 5 minutes that you can use and the other team cannot. And if you give the other team easy chances in transition, you're defeating the entire purpose. And so the only turnover the Pacers had in crunch time, I believe, they had 2 actually. One was Nembhard throwing it to the corner, and right when he threw it, Ben Shepherd cut to the rim, and Aaron Nesmith lifted from the corner. I might have that backwards. So it went out of bounds. That you can't really get a transition chance out of that. The other one, Siakam turned it over after a steal, and Peyton Pritchard got a 3 8 seconds later. Like, you don't want to give up those kind of easy shots. So the Pacers weren't scoring very well, and the Celtics tied it up with 29 seconds to go, the Derek White driving layup. And then, this is what I talked about after Pacers Bulls. Pascal Siakam, there are few who play like him in the NBA. He's not the best player. He's in the 20s at some number. But there are few who have his package of patience, of spin moves. And so he can get a shot up against just about anybody. And Jaylen Brown wasn't playing. And there were a lot of fun moments throughout this game. If you're a Pacers fan, at least there were fun moments of Siakam being guarded by someone who's too small. Peyton Pritchard somehow got on him a few times, and they didn't get him the ball enough in those situations. Derek White ended up on him a few times. There was young guys on him a few times. Baylor Shireman, welcome to the NBA, bud. Go guard Pascal Siakam. He's shifty, he's crafty, he's going to create fun shots, and he just can score. He can just turn and shoot over his shoulder or get to his layup package, whatever he wants to do. And so as he catches at the top of the key with about 11 seconds to go, you're confident if you're the Pacers, he's going to get a shot up. Every time he's taken a clutch shot this season, except for in Toronto, when he beat his man and Jakob Poeltl made a heroic block, he's gotten a shot up. And in this one, he did the same thing. He got to the free throw line-ish. He was being guarded. They were shading him over his left shoulder. He's very comfortable turning that direction and then taking a shot. He spins, and this is what he learned from that shot blocked in Toronto. You don't have to go right away. So he sees daylight on the spin. Instead of a defender stepping up to block his shot and leaving someone else open, they don't come up, so he's patient for a second in the lane, flings up a floater, banks it in. Great defense by the Pacers on the last play. Derek White takes a tough 32-foot three and misses it. And so their crunch time play was not perfect. I think they were up as much as 6 in the final 5 minutes. That might be wrong. It might have been 5. They were up as much as 5 in the final 5 minutes. Like, that should be a more comfortable lead than it was. For a team like the Pacers, I'm not going to tell you that they were great in crunch time today, but they do and did have Pascal Siakam, who, as he did against the Bulls, when he can just work down a spot and be patient. In that game, he was patient, and he got 2 defenders to bite on a pump fake and scored over a double team. He's just so good in those situations. And he made other plays late, too. He tipped a huge rebound to give the Pacers another possession at one point, got a block. They had another steal from Jay Huff right after his tip layup. Like, that sequence, even if it just stalls the clock for 27 seconds where no one really scores, like, that's a massive sequence, right? That's a massive amount of time taken off of the game. And the Pacers do win this one. And so they can thank their third quarter defense, a really long stretch there, a really great Jay Huff game that we'll get to in a second, and better crunch time play, particularly on defense. But on the last possession, they had the ball. On their last possession, they had the ball in a tied game, and their best player stepped up. And I don't think the Pacers' record's going to allow it. I still maintain that. But absolutely, statistically and production-wise, Siakam has been an all-star level player this year. If you think he should be, you can still vote until, I think, Wednesday. You only have one more day. And he proved it in this game. 21, 8, and 6 a game-winning shot, plus 11 and a 2-point win in about 35 minutes. Awesome Siakam game, awesome crunch time from him, sweet shot, learning from his past mistakes. That's what being a star in the NBA is all about, and that's what Pascal Siakam did in this game. So there it is. The Pacers get win number 3 in a row, and so much more to get to from this game. Jay Huff was hooping. A lot went right beyond what I talked about, including the bench defense being very good. Lots of other players that were very important in this game, and some crucial things Pascal Siakam said. Getting to all that coming up here on Locked On Pacers. Everybody, quick breaks. We can talk about 2 awesome groups of people. First up is game time during basketball season. There's nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everybody on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That is where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. Seeing the view from your seat before buying makes choosing tickets easy. You'll be confident. The fees are up front. They're not hidden at the end. The zone deals unlock great value seats, whether it's an NBA game or a live event. Everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today to get in on the action. Let me also talk to you guys about Zocdoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. You want someone in-network, nearby, with availability, but you also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, helps you walk out feeling confident about your next step. Your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with Zocdoc, a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can choose somebody you truly connect with. You can search for specialty programs or symptoms or quickly find the right fit, and being able to choose in-person or video visits makes scheduling way easier. Verified patient reviews on Zocdoc. They have real-time availability so you can book instantly without phone tag. Appointments usually happen within 24 to 72 hours. They can have same-day openings. If you need to book care fast, that's the place to go. It makes the process simple. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA and find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to Zocdoc for sponsoring this message. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen should be Locked On Celtics. Here, John Corrales, talk about the spirited Celtics fight without Jaylen Brown. And, of course, he'll talk about Joe Mazzulla's very funny post-game press conference where he answered 6 questions, and I believe every single question he answered with illegal screen. I'm almost certain he's referring to the last possession because I'm going to be honest, Siakam's screen on Derek White was not a legal screen, and they didn't call it. There's a lot of illegal screens in every game, and that was among them, certainly. But no call, and the Pacers very much benefit from it. And that was actually a fascinating part of this game. The refs just never blew the whistle at all. It was unbelievable. 6 free throw attempts for the Pacers. They made 4 of them. The Celtics had 9 free throw attempts. They made 7 of them. The only player to take more than 2 free throws, which is basically just one trip to the line, was Neemias Queta. He took 3. He had an and one and another foul. Crazy low free throw game. Pat Boylan had this during the game. The third quarter of this game, in the play-by-play era, was the first for the Pacers with no fouls called since at least 1996/1997. There's a chance that's my whole life. Ridiculously low free throw game. Had they blown a whistle there, it would have been shockingly against the game that was just played, but also he knocked him down. It was quite the screen. Okay, other players that were crucial to this win for the Pacers. Jay Huff was really good. After not starting so awesome in this game, Queta was really giving him fits. Queta gives a lot of players fits, to be fair. But and this is sort of can be the Jay Huff experience. You kind of live and die by his makes at times. He was flashing in the threes. He made 4 of them. Half almost of the entire Celtics team. He made more than any other Pacer. Nembhard made 3. Jarris Walker made 3. Jay Huff made 4. So that obviously is huge, right? He has gotten better at the balance, and I forget which player talked about this post game, but of deciding whether to roll, whether to pop, reading the defense based on who's around him, and deciding what to do in that exact situation, and popping out into space or rolling to the basket. That's obviously the 2 decisions one can make. And when you get better at that, you get more open shots. And of course, when you make 4 threes, that's going to force the defense to be more cognizant of an eventual pop out into space. And I think that is why this crazy phenomenon has happened 3 times now this season. Jay Huff, if you don't know, His career high in points is 22. He got that in Memphis last season. 3 times this season, J-Hub has scored 20 points for the Pacers. He's scored exactly 20 all 3 times and then stops. And all 3 times he got to 20 by the third quarter. So he had a full quarter left to score 3 points, and he didn't score a single point in any of those fourth quarters. And I think the reason for that is, one, in a lot of his games, a lot of his points come in a flurry, like 14 in one quarter or something, or 12 or whatever. But at some point, he hits a number, 17, 16, 20, where the defense is like, okay, we're changing what we're doing. He's playing well enough. He's making enough shots that we need to change what we're doing. And that makes it harder for J. Huff to score again, but much easier for other players to then be opened up for other things. Andrew Nembhard, for example, did not score at all in the first half and then started to hit in the third quarter. I think he was perfect from the floor in the third quarter. He had an off night in general. He did have 9 assists, but I think J. Huff was a big part of that. Also critical, I talked about this, I believe in the Hornets game or after the Hornets game, they're planting him around the basket more at times. And everyone would say, oh, duh, he's a center. But like, that's not his strength, certainly. 4 for 5 on twos, right? Only air quotes, making 4 threes for him and getting to 20 points with no free throws is a successful, like, wide-ranging scoring game. He had a beautiful fake that made 2 defenders, I believe it was Derek White and Luka Garza, jump, and then he ran in for the reverse dunk. Like, only J. Huff makes that play, both on the Pacers and in the NBA. Really, really good stuff. I do think this, though. Now that teams have figured out how to spread him out just a little bit more defensively, to be an absolute apex awesome performance. He was plus 20 in this game. Nobody else on the Pacers better than plus 12. He is a little reliant on his efficiency right now. Earlier in the season, particularly in November, when he was playing pretty well, he didn't have to be really efficient to be like super impactful. And that's when it felt like very obvious he should be the starter. So I do think there's still something for the Pacers to find with him to make him continuously a little bit more effective. But he certainly made the shots in this game and was incredibly effective. And they won, obviously. The other thing I thought was very important for the Pacers was their bench defense was really good. And that was important because Michael Potter had a tough game and was 2 for 6 from the field, 2 for 5 for TJ McConnell, who didn't score until the second half, although he had 5 assists, no turnovers. Jarris Walker was actually pretty good, but 4 for 9. That was the best of most of these bench guys. We'll get to Quentin Jackson in a second. 2 for 8 for Ben Shepherd, a little bit of shine wear off from him after a bunch of hot games, and I talked about it, so I jinxed it. Quentin Jackson was 3 for 5. He hit 2 shots in the fourth quarter. So their bench was like okay to at scoring, but being able to, if you're the Pacers, they did play, I think, 11 guys in this game. I might be counting wrong, but like when Potter is struggling a little bit, playing Tony Bradley or Potter just feels like a 10th guy. To me, Bradley was pretty good in the fourth quarter, even though he had no stats. So their bench was really Shepherd, Walker, McConnell, Quentin Jackson, and whatever center they had on the floor. But what a blessing it is for the Pacers in this current kind of health status that they have. They actually have legitimately the same players healthy every game that they can turn to a second unit and with the only start on the floor of Aaron Nesmith, they had long stretches with McConnell, Shepherd, Walker, Nesmith, Potter on the floor. That is Potter can be struggling a little bit, but that group generally is good on defense. Potter was good on defense in this game. Like they were making nothing, that bench group was, to end the first quarter, and they still kept it close because they were guarding really well. Like they airballed 2 shots in a row, and then they kept it right back in. And once they got some ball movement against zone, Potter hits a 3, a couple other guys score, they're right back in the game. So that is a good-looking second unit. And then Quentin Jackson, when that group does get in too big of offensive lulls, can kind of come in and be that dynamic pace changer. Like he's fearless and is making huge shots in the fourth quarter. Everybody knows what Quentin Jackson can do. I loved how fearless he was in the fourth quarter of this game. I think the bench defense was really, really good for the Pacers in this game, and that was a big part of this going the way it did. For them, and like in a game like this where again Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, one of them was always on the floor, often both, like they were just gonna dribble until they got a matchup or a shot that they liked. Not all, but a big part of what the Pacers had to do was kind of not ignore other players, but overload those guys a little bit, make their driving lanes a little tighter. And after a few possessions of that, after figuring out things in a way, I thought that bench defense really, really got them going. One more thing to get to before we just empty the notebook. Pascal Siakam post game. Sitting up in front of us. Obviously talked about his shot and things like that. That's all important. He also talked about how it's easier to look back on your mistakes when you win. Like he's talked before about how much his mood is based on the result of a game. That I feel like is true for everybody, but is more true for him than anybody else on the team. That's not even to say other guys don't care. Just like you can see it on his face and with his expressions. But him talking about how the blend of winning and development, and how when you mess up and you still win, but you know you blew some coverages or you messed up a play or you did something wrong, but you're in a better mood when you watch it back. Like, I think that's more constructive for a team. I'm not even saying, like, I know there's going to be some comments on this or some fans who are like, this sucks. They've won 3 in a row. They don't have the worst record in the league anymore. They passed the Pelicans. The Kings also won, so the Pacers are firmly second to last. But either way, you know, there is that tricky balance of like actually finding things in a season like this. Like, what can you learn that I've talked about? And that is, I think, for those of you who feel that way, I'm not going to tell anyone how to feel or what to root for. For those of you who feel very frustrated that they've won 3 in a row and do not have the worst record anymore, take solace in that it helps them develop more when they get the right attitude out of these games. And I think that is the strongest argument in favor of the people who say, well, losing really tanks your culture. I think for teams who have been bad or have not shown a high ceiling like the Pacers have, that's more true. I don't think the Pacers are at risk of losing culture. They were in the finals literally last year. But I do, like, that is the strongest argument that there is something lost when you lose all the time. You lose that right mentality or fresh feeling you get when you see your mistakes and go, dang, that did cost us. And thankfully, we were able to overcome that instead of just getting totally down on yourself or kind of shutting down, looking at mistakes and looking at, you know, you might look at other players' mistakes if you lose. You might not be so interested in doing something like that if you actually win the game. So anyway, that it was, I thought, very interesting. Siakam was crushing rookies and doing stuff well when he came in with the subs in the second quarter, but I thought that in a game where he hit the game winner was the most interesting non-final shot Pascal Siakam thing. So many notebook things from this game. Jarris Walker good again. Johnny Furphy, some fun stuff in smaller minutes, some not so good stuff from the Pacers throughout this game. Andrew Nembhard I want to focus on. We'll get to all that to close out today's Locked On Pacers.
Now, I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage. We got tuition. We got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. That's ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day, your second listen. A lot of fun games in the NBA last night, but the Clippers keep winning. Their record's actually credible. They're sniffing that play-in the West, which isn't particularly a season they wanted, but it's great news for the NBA that the Thunder might not just be handed an awesome pick. Locked On Clippers. We'll have more on the better Clippers who have beaten the Charlotte Hornets 16 times in a row now. Some stuff that I thought was going to make this a loss for the Pacers beyond what I mentioned earlier, that they were only up 1 after making 7 threes in a row. Part of that was they really could not contain Anthony Simons in the first half of this game. Anthony Simons, a very good player. He was 7 for 15 for 16 points. A lot of that came in the first half. Those are the kind of players that still the Pacers kind of struggle with, is especially when both Nembhard and Nesmith are off the floor, which does happen for stretches of these games. Ben Shepherd is a fine defender, probably above average defender, but like the best of the best players and the really shifty players can be tough for anybody. They didn't have anybody to really stop Simons. That was a struggle for them. And a couple times, Neemias Queta just was like cut to the back line and was wide open. It happened on like the first basket the Celtics scored of the game. He just kept getting behind the defense somehow. I thought that was really goofy. A lot of cuts were just leading to layups for the Celtics. And then like early at one point, Jay Huff, who played well, was just kind of standing watching while Derek White grabbed the rebound. And, you know, Jay Huff's obviously a big man, but Kata was kind of punking him. Kata punked the Celtics way worse in the first game they played, to be clear. And such a spread out ball movie Celtics team, I was like, man, I'm kind of worried Huff's not going to play well. And then he ended up obviously being awesome. But those were some of the concerns early. And then they hit halftime. They were down 2. Nembhard had missed all of his shots. Nesmith was like, smoked some over-aggressive layups. Furphy took one shot. They just had like a very meh offensive-y process half. There was a lot of stuff that felt like a little clunky and off that would have been very easy to point to as reasons they lost this game. Had they actually lost, they started 1 for 6 from 3 before they flipped everything around. But once the Celtics got control of their turnovers in the third quarter, I thought that might turn the game. But once the Pacers kind of got their game settled in on how they wanted to defend Pritchard and White, I thought they were really good. And the other problematic thing was Luka Garza just keeps being a problem for the Pacers this season. He was again in this game. But some good stuff, of course. Jarris Walker, once again. I mean, early he was like yuck. He had a shot that was like late clock, all granted, but in the first quarter that smoked the backboard, very loud miss. An ugly turnover, throwing it right to Kata at one point in the lane. That was his only turnover of the game, and you think after some plays like that, like, man, that's not good. But he had a sweet one-handed scoop pass to Jay Huff that was awesome, that Huff ended up bobbling, that ended up not leading to points. He had a beautiful take on the very next play right after that. His second quarter turnaround was very significant after an ugly start. And then, he made his threes. He has continued to just nylon. 3 out of 5 from deep in this game. So he gets to 11 points. They not close, but they played him in serious crunch time, and he ends up leading the bench in minutes. 11 points, 7 boards, getting real minutes with the starters in this game, played instead of Furphy at times in important minutes. Good stuff from Jarris again. And it's really hard with him to not overdo it with the shot, because he shot so bad early in the season that, like, even when he does, like in this game, like I mentioned, some bad stuff, when he makes 3 of his 5 threes, you just kind of go, ooh, okay, there it is. That's a good game. And I don't want to over-index on he made shots, so he played well. There's other stuff that can go poorly. But it feels more significant for him given how this season started, because we do see him do other things sometimes, not all the time, that would keep him on the floor. Today it was 7 rebounds. So overall, good game from Jarris after a rough first quarter, too. He really turned things around. Johnny Furphy had an interesting game where, like, his first take, he's in transition, he goes right into Misketa. Awesome. Right to the cup. 2 straight games where I think, oh my gosh, Johnny Furphy has toward the rim juice. Where's this coming from? His only shot attempt of the game was that. He had 1 shot, 2 free throws, 4 points. 5 rebounds again, 1 assist, 1 steal. That's all awesome. He ran a side pick and roll with Jay Huff, and it worked. Both defenders stuck with Furphy, and he realized it and hit Huff with a pass for a basket. What was that? Like, very good stuff from him, where you just see the small developments coming all the time. You still wonder where his offensive role is going to finish. What's he going to be awesome at? What's he not going to be awesome at, etc. But flashes every game from him. So Shepard was not as good in this game, clearly. He was 2 for 8. But the young guys keep doing more. Keep churning out a little bit more. And that's important for the Pacers. Shout out to Tony Bradley. His 6 minutes were crucial in a game where Potter struggled and Huff, yes, he made shots, but also had some issues. Tony Bradley, when they need him, he steps up. A couple other things from this one, though, for the centers. They kept just getting hunted and cooked, and that's a concern for the Pacers. Without Isaiah Jackson, especially against the Celtics, there was just a lot of speed for those 2 to keep up with, or those 3, because Bradley played. That was really, really tricky. They brought those guys into every single screen throughout this game, and credit, that's what made Bradley's minutes feel significant, is he did as best as you've seen him do in that kind of coverage. But that is probably the biggest weakness for this Pacers defense, is how easy it can be to get their centers, who are not the quickest, into the actions and kind of torch them for some important baskets. Let's a couple more crunch time notes as well. Look, Andrew Nembhard obviously has had some good fourth quarters. He's had many playoff rising moments. This game, he goes 5 for 14, and he made 3 threes, so he was 2 for 9 on 2s in this one. It just feels like in crunch time, he gets a little too settly with his approach to shots. And that's my biggest critique of him in general this season, is his shot selection. He gets too lulled into some mid-rangers that are maybe a little too tough or a little too deep to be the right shot on a given possession. That I think is especially true in crunch time, when he's taking fewer passes to the default for the whole team, and then a tough mid-ranger comes, it just feels so off. It doesn't feel quite right. But all my rest, I think I already talked about all the rest, but that is made up for when 1, he played pretty good defense. 2, A huge tip from Siakam, Shepherd getting his hands on a steal, and the Pacers in a low-scoring game, I wish I had led with this stat or said it earlier, still find a way to get it done. 98 points in a win for the Pacers. Their first win with less than 100 points since November 2022 for the Pacers. They beat the Rockets 99-91 that night. And if you count 98 as lower than 99, it's their first win with fewer than 99 points since February 2nd, 2019. It's been ages since the Pacers won a game scoring this few points. That's what the NBA is now. But they earned it with good defense and adjustments. They earned it with good crunch time play. They earned it with just enough shooting along the way for 3 wins in a row. The now 9-31 Pacers halfway coming right up tomorrow. Hoping for a guest. Communication going quite poor for me at the moment. Friday, Rhett Bauer is going to join because it'll be after January 15th, so we'll do an updated trade deadline kind of preview deal. In between, we'll talk Pacers Raptors. So lots of fun stuff coming here on Locked On Pacers. Thank you guys so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you very soon.